Okay, guys, the area that we've been monitoring over here towards the northern Bahamas in between the Florida coast has run out of time to try and spin up. It did look very promising there early. We were hoping that it was going to do something prior to this next front arriving. So here's what we can expect coming up over the next 4 to 5 days and what the swell forecast could or may be, as the models have been suggesting for about the last 4 or 5 days that we could see something else develop off the East Florida coast or over in the Gulf of Mexico. For those of you who are our Facebook followers, you know there are certain of you that we gave you a little blast about 4 or 5 days ago, and we're talking about something trying to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. The ECMWF was the first to start hitting at it, and the CMC is also hitting at it. The GFS is just off for some reason based on their model runs versus real time. So we're going to put this into motion for you and let you take a look. But what's happening is that this front now is diving down and it's elongating this area of convection that's over South Florida. You see Dorian spinning off, heading off towards the northeast as forecast. And this front is supposed to come down and dissipate over the next 3 to 4 days. We've got high pressure building in here over New York that could produce a small little background 10-second groundswell. And we'll show you that in just a few moments. But as this front drops down and dissipates, some of this energy that's coming down with it and what's left over South Florida looks to get spread out here. And once the front dies down, the rule of thumb during hurricane season is always watch the tail ends of fronts for something to try and spin up. Now, models had been suggesting that maybe something over here towards the northern Gulf, and then again taking it off to the west. The CMC looks dead on in our opinion, and as you can see how this is getting stretched out over southern Florida, the CMC is pointing at several little pockets, one over here towards the southwest Gulf and then moving off towards the west, but also up in here about where Dorian is now. So that's where we're going to be watching in the next 3 to 4 days, guys, so be sure to stay tuned in on that. Okay, so here's a look at the swell forecast. Dorian so far has created highest seas around 12 feet in a little south-southwest swell. Points up in here towards New York, up here towards Nantucket, looking to get a little bump here in the next 3 to 4 days behind this little southerly flow. There may be a little bump coming for the South Carolina beaches as we progress. But notice that back out here towards the Atlantic, we've got a little 10-second little groundswell out of the east-southeast starting to develop. We still have this east-southeast trade wind flow that's been locked due to high pressure out there in the northwest Atlantic. So we'll be watching that on the buoys to see how this develops. But as we move through the forecast, you can see that a longer 10-second period. Sorry, guys, this is the only way that I could capture the image. A longer little southeast swell is going to develop 4 to 5 feet north of Hispaniola, 3 to 4 feet towards the central Bahamas. And what looks to happen is high pressure is going to settle over New York and turn the winds back off the mid-Atlantic and out of the east-southeast. So we've had this southwest flow. Hopefully that high pressure can catch a little bit of this east-southeast swell that's out here towards north of Hispaniola and the central Bahamas and give us a little groundswell pulse coming in hopefully about around Wednesday. Now, this is going into, again, this image that we were talking about, and has high pressure, east-southeast winds 10 to 15 knots setting up off the mid-Atlantic, gives us a little hope that we could see a small little long-period groundswell in about 1 to 2 foot range for the southeast U.S. coast. Nothing for South Florida, guys. Sorry about that. And but that's what that's looking like as far as the most recent run of the swell models. Looking for early signals of that setup, and we'll take a look at the St. Martin's buoy. St. Martin's buoy at 3 a.m. bottomed out at 1.6 feet and is now up to 4.3 feet in a east-southeast swell. So here's the first indicator on that setup that we just mentioned to you. And as you can see, this is the Puerto Rico buoy. The Puerto Rico buoy bottomed out at 0.0. I'm sure that's just a bad reading, but was hovering around 1 to 2 feet and has now increased to about 4 feet out of the east-southeast on swell height. So there could be a little building swell coming across the top of Puerto Rico, and we'll be looking for increasing trends on the Puerto Rico buoy and the South Bermuda buoy over the next couple of days. For right now, guys, that's all we've got. So stay tuned to the forecast.